See the practical on the context API, how to create the context API and how it is replacing the props. Okay, so as I told you in the like theory part, ki we whenever we have the hierarchy like a structure, when there are component inside the component kind of thing. So instead of passing the properties, we can have the context API for sharing the data. Okay, so to demonstrate this context API, let's create the one parent component and three child component as I told you in the theory part. So similarly we will create the component. So to create the components, just create a file. I am going to give the name as a parent one. Okay, parent one component dot jsx. All right, now let's create the component. So import react from react, then create the functional component constant parent component which returns the UI. Perfect. And we have to declare the export parent component. It should be like a default export. All right. Oh sorry, it was export default only. I was correct only. Okay, fine. So this is the like a parent p1 or parent 1 component I have created. Now let's create the three child component. Okay, so let's create the three child component. Child 1 component dot jsx. Same thing, import a react from react, then create the functional component which returns UI. All right, and then export default name of the component so that it is available for the other component. So now what I have did, I have created the first child component, that is child 1 component. Now I am going to create the another two components. Child 2 component dot jsx, and in this one I will copy paste the content and I will change this name to child 2, and same here. So child 2 component is ready. Now I am going to create the third one, child 3 component dot jsx. Copy paste the code, child 3, similarly change the name in the default statement. So we have created the three component. Okay, now let's say in the third component I am displaying welcome to tutorial series. Okay, so this is the message I have printed into child 3 component. What I am going to do, as explained in the theory part, let's say we have the component kind of thing. C3, it's like a child of C2, C2 is the child of C1, and C1 is the child of P1. Okay, so what I am going to do, so this is the parent component, in parent component I will add the first child, nothing but the child 1 component. Okay, similarly in child 1 component I am going to use child 2 component, and in child 2 component I am going to use the or embed the child 3 component. Awesome. Now what is the hierarchy? P1 is the like a parent of all the component. P1 has the like a direct child is the child 1. Child 1 is the parent of child 2 component. Child 2 component is the parent of child 3 component. Okay, now let's say, now let me add this parent 1 component in the app component file so that it get display on the UI. So here you can see welcome to tutorial series, whatever the message we have given into child 3 component. Alright, so this message is displaying on the screen. Now what I want to print the name welcome to Vijay. Let's say I want to print the welcome to Vijay, welcome Vijay to tutorial series. Now refresh the page. Welcome Vijay to tutorial series. Okay, so what I want currently did like it is like a static message which is directly the part of the child 3 component. Now let's say in our real time application kind of thing, like we have the like let's say the login component. So login is the like separate component where the user is logged in. Once is the logged in, we have the different component where we display the name. Okay, so means like a component name is the part of the another component and we display that name on the another component kind of thing. So what I want this Vijay to be populated or comes from the parent component. Okay, so for that one what I am doing, I am creating one constant, let's say name, and let's give the name as a like Vijay. Okay, now what I want this Vijay name from the parent component to use in the child 3 component. Okay, so for that one what I will do, I will try to do that one. So will that work? So let's say, so here we are getting, okay, so this name is unexpected kind of thing because this name is not accessible in the child 3 component, it's a part of the parent component. So to do that one we have the props. So how to send the props? So simply in the component we have to give the name, whatever the variable name we want to give, then we have to pass the variable. Okay, now once we pass this as a like a attribute to this component, okay, in actual component we have to receive this value as a like a props, right? And here again we have to pass these props to the child 2 component because we want to show on the child 3 component. So we have to pass these components, where pass these props to the next level component. So props dot, what is the variable name, right? So again these props will be available into the child 2 component. So here I have to give the props, and by using that props again we have to send it to the next level component, that is the child 3 component. So I want to give the value of the attribute as a name, and the actual value should be like props from name. Okay, props dot name. Okay, now this value is delegates to child 3 component. Here again we have to use the props, and to display that one we can use now props dot name. Now in the parent component we have the name as a like a Vijay. Let me give some name as a like a ABC something Vijay ABC. Now let's check on the UI. Wow, awesome. So we can see the Vijay ABC. So now what we did like sends the value from parent component to the child 3 component through the props. How to send the props? Like by using the attribute, we have to give the name, and that name should be used as it is while returning the value. So here in the child 1 component we received the by using the props, then same props we have forwarded to the child 2 component. From child 2 component again we received the props, we forwarded to the child 3 component. Here we use that one. So you can imagine to delegates or like transfer the value from the parent component to the child 3 component, we have to pass the props from one component to another component and on that component to another component. So this is like a hectic process. Okay, so to share this data we can have the context. Okay, so as I told you, so in this scenario kind of thing where we have the multi-level kind of components, that time context API is like a suitable. Okay, so let's create the context. Let's say I am creating the name as a like a first thing is like we have to create the context as I told in the theory part. Okay, what are the things we need to do? We have to create the first context. Okay, first we have to create the context. Okay, then we have to provide we have to see the provider, then consumer, and then use context. Okay, so same thing we have to follow here. So like let me create the first context. Okay, so new file, create the context file first. So I am going to create the context. Let's say name context. I am giving the name as a like a name context.js. All right, so I have created the context file name context.jsx. Now inside this file I have to create the context. So to create the context we have the method inbuilt method in the React, that is create context. So let's create the variable constant. Let's give the name as a like a name context is equal to what is the name what is the method create context. So this is the method from the React, and here we have to pass the initial value whatever the you want to set to the context. So currently I am not setting any context, so whatever the name we are given, that is the name constant. Okay, now what we have to do, we have to make this const that context is available to other components. So we have to write export default and name context, whatever the name of the context we have to specify here. Okay, now this context is available to the other component. Okay, now what I have to do, second step, we have to see the provider. So as I told, I want to send the data from the component p1. I want to send the data from component p1. So p1 is should be the like provider for me. So for that one, what you have to do, inside the functional component, okay, we have to import whatever the name we have given, that is like a name context dot provider. So this is the tag we have to use, name context dot provider, because this is the like a provider which is going to provide the data to the context. Okay, so what we have done, name context dot provider, and here is the like a attribute we have to pass, that is nothing but the value attribute. Okay, and inside this value we have to pass the value. Okay, so here what I am going to see, I am going to pass simply the name. Okay, now let me remove this props one because I am not going to use the props now. Okay, now let me clear this props first. I am not going to use this one, I am going to use the context API. So I am removing these props from the each component. Alright, so here what I did, So I have imported this name constant name context from this my dot context file. Okay, whatever the context file I have created, I have imported that one. Then dot provider, because this parent component, whatever this parent component will be the provider. Okay, so we have to add like name context dot provider, and what value this component want to share with the other components, that value we have to pass here into the tag value tag or attribute. Okay, so value is the attribute, and here we have the pass the value of whatever the parent component want to share with the other component. Okay, so now this must be clear. Now this is like a parent component, we have added the provider, and we have added the one attribute, that is value, and here value is nothing but the whatever the value we want to share with the other component. So whatever the component comes under this tag, okay, will have the access to the context data. Whatever the data we stored in the my context will be accessible. So whatever the component like a wrap around this provider. So the this one like currently this child one component is the like wrapped into this my context, and child one component will have the access to this value. Okay, as well as the child one component contains the child 2, that means child 2 also has the access to that my context. Child 2 contains the child 3, means child 3 also having the value to access to that value. Okay, now this is how we provide the value. Now next one is like how the child component will use or get this value. Okay, so for that one, as we see, like we have the props, but props it's not suitable, because we have to implement that props every component, and then we have to forward or delegate to the another component. So now to avoid that one, we are using the context API. Now we have created the provider. Now let's say where I want to use in the child 3 component. So here I need not to worry about this other component child 1 and child 2 component. Directly I want to access into child 3 component. So what I have to do, we have to create one variable, let's say any name whatever you want. Let's say I am giving the like my context. This is the local name I am giving. Okay, my context, and is equal to, here we have to use the one hook, that is use context. Okay, and inside that one we have to pass the name of the context. What is the name of my context? That is the name context, right? Alright, so here is the like import name context from name context file. Okay, so now this context is available, and that value is present in this context, my context. Okay, so as we see here, we are passing the name directly. Okay, so whatever the value of this name will be assigned to this variable, that is like a my context. Okay, now here I can put that one, and we can try my context. So whatever the value we pass, that comes under this variable whatever we have given. So now let's see on the screen. So currently we are not getting. So what is the, because like parent component we have not saved it. Okay, so now let's see. So here you can see Vijay ABC. Okay, welcome Vijay ABC to tutorial series, and this name is coming from the parent component, and in child 3 component directly we are using by using the use context. So here you can see in child 1 component we did nothing, in child 2 components also we did nothing. Directly in the child 3 component we are accessing the value. So this is the like a power of the context API. Okay, so we have to create the one context. Okay, then inside that context save the data, create the provider. Okay, and say share the data whatever you want by using this tag value attribute, and whatever the value we pass here will be accessible to all the components which is wrapped under this context tag. Okay, now this is the one how we get it. Now the next question comes in mind, if I want, now this is the like a reading the value from the context. Now I want to update the value in the context. Let's say this p1 is giving the name. Okay, but in child component I want to update the value of this component in the context. Okay, so what we have to do, similar thing, similar fashion kind of thing. Okay, so we have to create the use state like a function. In use state, you remember like there is a one variable and another is a like method which used to update that value. So similar fashion we have to do it. Constant, then let's say name, second one is like set name, whatever the name we want to give for that method which will update the name, and then one use state. And here let's say I am giving the like temp name, or else directly I will give the name specify here like a Vijay. Okay, so this is the name I have given to this state variable, that is the like a name, and set state is the method. So when I want to update the value of the context, okay, so what we have to do, we have to give the method which will like be used to update the value. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, previously I was passing the value directly like that is the variable name. Now what I'm going to do, instead of that one I will pass the object, and which will contain name of variable and the method which is used to update the value of that one variable. Okay, so this is the variable for which I am sharing the data, and this is the method which will help or use to update the value of this name parameter. Alright, now once we go to this child component, okay, so so here is the kind of thing like I am using this use context. So this my context now will have this object which has the name and set name. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to display, let's say I want to display the name, my context, then what is the name of the variable, that is like a name. Okay, now let's try. So sorry, I have not saved it. Let's save this. So here you can see Vijay. So this Vijay is coming from the this one variable from the parent component. Okay, so this is the name we are using in the child3 component. Here we are passing the object having the two field. First one is the value and second one is the method which will update the value. Okay, so now I have utilized this name. Now if you want to update the value, okay, so what I can do for that one, let's say I want to update the value. So simply what I am going to this key, I am going to create button. Okay, or let's say I am going to create a let's say button, and let's give the name as a like a update name. Okay, let's check first what is we are getting on the screen. So we get the button update name. So on click on that one, I want to update the name of this whatever the we are receiving from the parent, or whatever the value we have in the context I want to update. So what I am going to do is I am going to write on click, I am going to add the like click handler. Okay, I am going to create the method here. Function click handler. Okay, now inside this click handler, what I want the change this name from Vijay to like a Vijay XYZ or something kind of thing, Vijay PQR. I want to update the name, something kind of thing. So what I am going to do, I am going to use my context dot, what is the name of this variable, set whatever the we have given, that is like a set name, my context dot set name, and let's say I will pass the updated value. Let's say instead of Vijay I will give the name as like a Swapnil. Okay, So now let's check what I did. Simply I have created the one button. On that one button I have created the click handler, like which will be get executed when I will click on that one. Okay, so once that click handler becomes, I am updating the value in the context. Okay, so now let's check. Currently I am getting like a welcome Vijay to tutorial. Now I will click on this update. Here you can see welcome Swapnil. Means what I am doing, I am updating the value in the context, API context, right? Because parent is giving me the name as a like Vijay, but I want to update that value in the like a child component. So like in a real-time web application, let's say login component where you will logged in. Okay, but there might be the component which is responsible for logout, right? So when you will log out, we have to change the value from login to logout kind of thing. So there are like many scenarios in real-time application, like one component will add the value while another component, as per the requirement, we need to update the value of the context also, right? So that is how we can use this API context. Hope so guys you got the idea how to use the context API and how to update the values in the context API. Hope you got the understanding, and hope you like this video. Please like, share and subscribe to channel.